What's up, everybody? We had a great draft a couple weeks ago. Thanks to everybody who made the trip out. And the wait is almost over. Football is about to begin. We got the Philly special poster purposely placed right here to remind us what dreams may come to start the football season, both for the Birds, but also for fantasy football. So yeah, bright side of an early draft is I got a little time to put together a draft recap video. So let's go ahead team by team in draft order. We'll look at each team and compare them to a current NFL team and use that to predict the final standings. Let's do it. So first up, we got John Fornecker picking first, who had to draft remotely while working. And I guess he had to work during the draft to pay that extra $40 of toilet bowl money he had to put into the pot this year.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
So having the number one pick in the draft always helps. I guess unless you were picking number one the last couple years, because that was Christian McCaffrey number one. But this year it was Jonathan Taylor, no-brainer. Good start there. And when you look at the rest of this team, it's all about wide receiver. Fornecker's got Stephon Diggs, DK Metcalf, and Keenan Allen. Yikes, that wide receiver tandem will crush. But the quarterback play could be worrisome on this team because he's got Matt Stafford and the maybe gimpy elbow, Mac Jones and Baker, interception maker. Fornecker's hoping for a resurrection in Carolina. So, John's NFL comp, the Miami Dolphins. They got great wide receivers with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, a lot of skill and speed, a lot of playmakers at those skill positions. But the only question is, can Tua at quarterback get them the ball and lead that offense? So similar to Fornecker's team, Dolphins, they're much improved and are dangerous. So we'll see how it turns out. But all around, solid draft from Fornecker while he was roaming the Charlottesville streets on Saturday, pushing product and working.
Now, let me test the levels in your organic house blend. Yep, that's good shit.
All right, next up, the number 2 pick was Negs, who was sadly another remote drafter, and I guess mostly drafting because for the first few rounds he was actually on autopilot because he, quote, forgot all about the draft.
Mischievous and deceitful, chicanerous and deplorable.
So looking at Negs' team after the draft, his team is actually a lot like Fornecker's in that got some good skill position players, dangerous at running back and wide receiver, but the quarterback spot is real iffy. Negs has some has-beens at quarterback with Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan. Solid choices if it was like 2014. But if you look at Negs, it's kind of interesting. In the past years for his draft, quarterback was always the same guy. In 2018, he drafted Russell Wilson in the second round. 2020, he drafted Russell Wilson in the second round. In 2021, he drafted Wilson in the third round. So who knew? Apparently, Negs has a love affair with Russell Wilson. And had he actually been in attendance, he'd probably have Trusty Rusty again because Wilson actually slipped into the 5th round this year, a very savvy pick that we'll talk about later. But to me, looking at this team and at quarterback, the NFL comp is clear. We're going with the Seattle Seahawks for Negs. Much like the Seahawks, Negs has a huge hole at quarterback, and he's going to regret finally letting Wilson go.
Wilson! I'm sorry! I'm sorry, Wilson! Wilson, I'm sorry!
All right, next up, picking third, we have Ben. And kudos to Ben for making the trip to RVA. Glad you finally made it back for the draft in person. But we'll also say Greensboro, not that far away. So hope you can make it back for future drafts. And Ben almost, at the end of the first round, made some shockwaves in the league with a potential blockbuster deal that he said to me in the room with everybody listening, and I quote, "This is an actual offer." He said those words. "I'll give you Justin Jefferson for Najee Harris." I shook Ben's hand, I accepted, and this sequence of events actually happened.
That just happened.
Everybody's seen it. Legally as commish, I feel like I could have maybe pushed that through. But when we talked about that trade, the draft crowd, for some reason, just totally lost their minds.
People, calm down.
So after everyone just started yelling veto, Ben quickly reneged after the uproar, didn't want to cause any problems, I guess. And I'll say it wasn't that crazy of an offer. Yes, Justin Jefferson could get more PPR points than Najee, maybe. But how many bell cow top flight running backs are there? And at the end of the first round, I think Ben saw the writing on the wall because the RBs were disappearing. A lot were either kept or drafted early. And Ben wanted an RB2. And so he ended up reaching for Nick Chubb, a 2-down running back on an offense that's mostly led by Jacoby Brissett.
You look stupid. I'm sorry.
And if you look at the draft board breakdown, in the second round, late second round, Keenan Allen was still on the board at Ben's pick. And I'm guessing that's who Ben would have drafted if we actually did our trade and people didn't lose it after we agreed to it. So if Ben took Keenan Allen, you got Keenan Allen and Najee Harris versus Justin Jefferson and Nick Chubb. I might take Keenan Allen and Najee Harris, and I don't think Ben was crazy for maybe thinking that. So with that tough decision, Ben's NFL comp is the San Francisco 49ers because they also made a huge judgment call. They were in the NFC Championship game last year, in a great position to win it. They probably should have won it. Yet they jumped ship on Jimmy G, and they're going to Trey Lance, an unproven quarterback who started like one season in D2. So we'll say Ben's team is like the 49ers because this move could backfire in a big way, or who knows, maybe he'll go all the way because of it. But either way, I'm not mad at all at Ben for pulling out of our trade after I already accepted.
Self-righteous, cock-sucking, two-faced backstabber.
Drafting fourth, we got Cole, and Cole had an embarrassment of riches in terms of draft picks after his trade with me last year, because he had an extra 2nd and 7th round pick this year. And we all know with Cole, he is not afraid to pull the trigger and reach for his guy, whether it's good, like the 4th round rookie Pat Mahomes pick from 2018, the bad like DJ Chark in the 4th round in 2020, or the super ugly like 2nd round Isaiah Crowell in 2017.
Wild card, bitches! Yeah! What?
So with Cole, you know you're going to get some bold picks, and he did not disappoint in the middle rounds of our draft. Cole's team kind of looks like all the fantasy football sleeper lists that, we Google before the draft. But everyone is drafted like 2 rounds earlier than they're supposed to be because Cole has got to get his guy. So like he got 5th round A.J. Dillon drafted before J.K. Dobbins. You got a 7th round Gabriel Davis drafted before Chris Godwin. And an 8th round Alan Lazard drafted before Michael Thomas and DeAndre Hopkins.
You're crazy, man. You're crazy. I like you, but you're crazy.
So Cole's NFL comp is the NFL team who, surprisingly, I didn't know this, had the most picks in the 2022 NFL draft, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, like Cole, took some shots in the draft, hoping to hit on some of those lottery tickets. They got Sky Moore, I think, trying to step in at wide receiver as one of the guys replacing Tyreek Hill. And Chiefs and Cole, they both got Mahomes leading the quarterback attack. And the top-end talent looks really good. So we'll see. If Cole hits on any of these mid-round picks, he'll have a very dangerous team and could go all the way. Next up, we got Fitz picking 5th because he won the Mediocre Bowl last year. Well done. He is a dynasty of the Mediocre Bowl. And it's always hard to come up for anything with Fitz in these videos because his team always seems to be right in the middle. Pretty solid, no real holes. Will do pretty well, but doesn't seem to push for the title either. You got to give me more Fitz to work with. I got no material. In 6 out of 8 years, Fitz has finished 4th or 5th place. That is pretty consistent right there. He always seems to be in contention, but falls apart at the end.
I mean, damn it! It never, ever, ever goes our way.
And honestly, that's what his team sort of looks like again this year. His keepers were good, but not amazing. His skill positions after the draft are solid without any holes, but no unit looks super elite either. So Fitz's NFL comp is another team that's never won a Super Bowl and is hoping to change that this year and could be solid. The Arizona Cardinals. If you look at the Cardinals offense, quarterback, running back, tight end, wide receiver, all solid. Not amazing, but solid. And they just haven't made that jump to elite yet. So that honestly looks like, though, it could happen this year for both Fitz and the Cards. The potential is there. All right, next up, picking 6th is me. I lost the Mediocre Bowl to Fitz last year. And I was missing some key draft picks this year because, as we previously mentioned, Cole pilfered my pockets and took all my picks in our trade last year. So in the draft, I really had one clear strategy.
They put all their hopes into the Eagles.
I made sure to draft the Eagles quarterback, an Eagles running back, an Eagles wide receiver, and the Eagles kicker. I always want the Eagles offense to do well, but this year, more than ever, I need the Eagles.
And year after year after year, their team lets them down.
So unsurprisingly, I'll just go with the Eagles as my NFL comp, because if you look at my team, I got Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts at quarterback, putting all my eggs into the quarterback basket, and they're going to need to dominate in order to take me to the next level, just like the Birds. So if that Philly offense is riding high, I win $100 each from Ben and Pat. Don't forget that. They made foolish draft day bets with me that the Eagles wouldn't be a top 10 offense. So video record right here. Let's not forget. But then B, my fantasy team could really have the chance to go the distance if those Philly players all go off. So fly, Eagles, fly. All right, drafting 7th, we have Mike. And actually here, I'm going to start with the NFL comp right off the bat, because as I talk about Mike's team, I think the comparison is clear. It's the Cleveland Browns. And I know Mike probably isn't super pleased with that comp. No one wants to be the Browns. But the reason why is because Mike had a very active offseason, trading away several draft picks, the short term, so that he could lock down that long-term keeper that he thinks is going to transform his team, much like the Browns did with Watson. So now heading into the season, because he was missing some draft picks, Mike's quarterbacks are Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff, which hurts. And heading into the season for the Browns, they also, at quarterback, have a gaping hole left by Deshaun Watson.
Phrasing?
So both these teams have some question marks. Mike did get some high ceiling guys in the middle of the draft with Drake London and Darnell Mooney at wide receiver. Thought those were some savvy picks. But he also did have a bit of a reach. Love the Birds, but a bit of a reach with A.J. Brown, who went entirely too early, as we all collectively gasp at the beginning of the second round.
But this isn't the Eagles.
Go Birds, though.
Oh, go Birds.
All right, fine. Go Birds, right?
So for Mike / the Browns, making the playoffs in 2022 will just be icing on the cake. He's really looking towards getting his players back 2023 and beyond. All right, picking 8th with the bronze medal last year is Pat, who for the 3rd year in a row had a solid draft, unfortunately. No picks of retired NFL players with pending criminal charges, nothing like that. Pat sadly just had good all-around solid picks, and I am starting to really miss the old Pat drafts where his team was built on razor-sharp football knowledge that can only be attained after you consume like a half gallon of whiskey.
I believe everything that anyone else has watched Chad play.
So Pat got tons of value in this draft. A lot of the players that I mentioned earlier who slipped in the draft were snatched up by Pat. He got J.K. Dobbins pretty late, Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, Russell Wilson. all these dudes went a round or two later than they were projected to go. The rest of us were out here trying to get our trendy sleepers, but Pat crushed it simply by just going down a list pretty much of best available.
It's very simple. It's very simple. This is not hard.
So back in the day, we knew Pat would always be in contention for the toilet bowl, but now he seems to always be in contention for the title. So his NFL comp, the Tampa Bay Bucks. Ever since Brady rolled into town, Tampa Bay has been legit, and the same goes for Pat. And he always seems to draft a pretty high number of Bucks too. He's got, I think, Fournette and Chris Godwin on his team this year. So top to bottom, Pat's team looks solid, no real holes. Well done. All right, our runner-up from last year, picking 9th, we got Griff. And his team was solid last year. And so clearly, if you look at the draft board, his mantra was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because in 2020 and 2021, Griff had on his team Deebo Samuel, David Montgomery, Jalen Waddle, Elijah Mitchell, Deontay Johnson, Marquise Brown. And this year, Griff got on his team Deebo Samuel, David Montgomery, Jalen Waddle, Elijah Mitchell, Deontay Johnson, Marquise Brown. So Griff just wanted to make sure all his dudes came back.
You see, I'm so loyal to people, and maybe I'm loyal to a fault. But
So Griff drafted with some loyalty to his old players, and his lineup will look very familiar, made up of guys who he's already had. So his NFL comp is a team who apparently shares this trait in light of some recent news, the Las Vegas Raiders. It was reported recently that the Raiders had a chance to get Brady after he left the Patriots a couple years ago, but instead Gruden and the Raiders said, nah, we're good, we got Derek Carr.
How do you do that? How do you do that? What the hell is going on?
That right there is some loyalty, maybe too much loyalty. And we'll see how that plays out for Griff this year as well, sticking with his dudes and seeing if he can make another championship run. Finally, we got our reigning champ, Drew, who, in addition to being the reigning champ, got an extra 6th-round pick in this draft for trading away Cam Akers as a keeper. So being the champ and having extra draft capital, life is good for Drew. Last year, he won despite having a ragtag band of misfits at quarterback. I think he had Davis Mills in the championship game at quarterback. You shouldn't legally be allowed to win the championship with him at quarterback, but it happened. But Drew didn't want to face that this year, so he went out and got himself Justin Herbert right away at the end of round 1. But Drew did not take a running back in round 2, and he also didn't keep any running backs. So when it got to him at pick 30, and he had 0 running backs, the best available one was Breece Hall.
I immediately regret this decision.
And let's not forget, Breece Hall, he's a rookie. He's playing for the Jets. That is usually a kiss of death combo right there that usually doesn't work out too well. But Drew, in addition to Hall, kept trying to get more of those mediocre RBs, trying to fill that stable. Later in the draft, he also got Josh Jacobs, Damian Harris, and James Cook.
I fucked up.
So even though running back is tough for Drew, the rest of his positions are absolute dynamite. I mean, he has George Kittle as his own personal tight end too, behind Mark Andrews, for goodness sakes. That's just crazy. So last year, Drew was polishing up some waiver wire QB turds on the way to the title to go with his stellar roster at the rest of his positions. This year, he's going to have to do the same thing, but at running back. So his NFL comp, we're going to go with the San Diego Chargers, because the Chargers have a fantastic passing attack, so many weapons, but they aren't going to run all over anyone. Even their RB1 Eckler, you could argue he's just as lethal or more so as a receiver than a rusher. So Chargers have Super Bowl aspirations, as does Drew, but they're going to have to do it through the air, not through the ground game. All right, so there you have it. That's the draft analysis, taking our teams and giving them an NFL comp. And I tried to do it using maybe some NFL storylines that match our team, maybe some shared players between the NFL team and our fantasy team. But also, I wanted the odds of winning it all to be similar for our NFL comp. So if you got a good NFL comp, it's because I think you got a good team and a good shot at winning our league. So we're going to use those odds to try to make our predictions for the final standings. So according to good old DraftKings, here are the odds of winning it all for each of our teams. All right, you can kind of see that it's pretty close in the middle there. We got Fitz, Mike, Griff, Fornecker all tied in that middle 6 to 9 range at plus 4,000. A couple of these might be a little generous. Ben at number 4 might be a little high. Not sure his team is that stout. We'll see. And then on the flip side, Negs, poor Negs as the Seahawks at plus 15,000. That's pretty harsh, but whatever. We'll try it anyway and use these odds. If you take the Super Bowl odds and use them to figure out the likelihood of us winning the league, here are the percentages that you get. And again, for the most part, looks pretty reasonable, except, sorry, Negs, again, very harsh. I don't think Pat is actually 24 times more likely to win the league than you. That number might be high. But also, if Negs gets the toilet this year, definitely deserved after that draft day. I'm not sure what on earth happened. We planned it like a month in advance. You must get like 50 texts leading up to and on draft day. I don't get it.
What the hell? You freaking kidding me?
But I digress. Let's get to the actual prediction. We're just going to use those odds to predict finish order. And I promise I'll hit the simulate button only once. Trust me. And so this is the real deal, actual simulation based on our Super Bowl odds. And here are the results. So I swear to you, these were the actual results when I hit the simulate button. I would not lie to you. Looks like I'm going to be your 2022-2023 league champion. I know everyone has just finished rolling their eyes and believes the results now to be totally invalid, but it's the truth. And hey, at the very least, I just hope this is a good omen, at least for my NFL comp, the Birds. Maybe they're actually Super Bowl bound this year. Let's go. So Ben gets the silver. Ben and I play in week 1, so it looks like we got a championship preview right away. And Cole and Mike round out the top 4 spots and finish in the money. Fitch yet again in the mediocre bowl, so you know the simulation is accurate. Those results track. And very notable is that Pat, the favorite in the simulation, found his way to the toilet playoffs. All is right with the world. Finally returned to normalcy. And the Seattle Seahawks, a.k.a. Negs, finds a way to finish ahead of Pat in the standings. Who knew? And finally, at the bottom of the standings, Fornecker in that toilet bowl game yet again. But this year finds a way to get the win and edges out Griff, who sadly goes from almost champion last year to toilet this year. All right, so there you have it. Take a final look at your 2022-2023 standings. Do we even need to play the season out? But yeah, the action gets underway tonight. Can't wait. A great first game with Bills-Rams. And yeah, looking forward to seeing how the season shakes out. Good luck, everyone.